Welcome back, everyone. Let's get the latest on the appointment of President Yoweri Museveni's wife as education minister and some other stories coming up from Uganda. I'm now being joined on Network Africa by renowned Ugandan journalist Joshua Poro. Thank you so much for making our time to speak to us on the show.
Pleasure is all mine.
So speak to me. What has been the reaction in Uganda over this new appointment by the president?
Well, we are absolutely not surprised because first there was just the office of the First Lady handing over aid to suffering children and running the aid support organization. You know, the office of the First Lady had basic roles. But then before we know it, she was running for Member of Parliament. And when she won a high elective post in Ruhama County, her home area, she was awarded a ministerial post for the Minister of Karamoja region. Now, Karamoja is a very remote part of this country. It's extremely remote. And life there is hard. An ordinary human being wouldn't easily survive there. The Karamojong are cattle keepers. This place is a desert. It's dry, it's hard. And after 5 years of holding that ministry, the only thing the Karamojong have is a road. It's a very, very small progress that we can talk of because that is what is actually made in the national budget. So there's nothing much she did in the Karamoja region. But now she has come to the education sector. And many Ugandans are thinking that she is coming to the education sector to just control the money because a huge chunk of our donor money comes actually through the Ministry of Education. We have so much donations coming through the ministry. So we think that he's putting her there to try and control the education resources, the money. You know, these things where it's just a snap of a finger and someone gets whatever amount of money they want because it's being controlled by the first family. And now the first son was promoted to the rank of general. He is the head of the Special Forces Command, a group of soldiers that actually protect the president and the first family and powerful government installations like the oil fields in western Uganda or in the Albertine region, the ceremonial grounds at Kololo here in Kampala, where Dr. Besigye and his team or Mama Mbabazi were not allowed to hold rallies. It's only for government functions.
So let's look at all the reasons. Let's look at all the reasons why, you know, the First Lady got the role. Is she qualified? Apart from the fact that it looks like it's a lucrative post to be in, but isn't she qualified for the post?
Well, absolutely, she is qualified for that position, but my problem here is she does not have experience in education. You see, there are ministers of state, ministers who are below her. You see, in Uganda, there are two things. There's cabinet minister and minister of state. Now, the cabinet minister is the overall minister, and the minister of state is below her. Now, we have ministers of state for higher education, sports, and blah, blah. Now, we have, for example, the Minister of State for Higher Education, Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, who is an experienced teacher. He owns a huge chunk and a multitude of schools in this country. For that reason, he was appointed Minister of Education. And he is trying to reschedule Uganda's curriculum to fit the needs of education and the needs of the people of Uganda. She does not have the experience that is required to run this ministry.
Let's talk about the other cabinet members. Let's talk about the other cabinet members. How are Ugandans reacting to that?
Well, during the State of the Nation address last week, the president did say that this time is when he will be taking Uganda's economy to a middle-income economy. But I can assure you that with this kind of appointment, Uganda's journey to the middle-income economy just took a nosedive. We have ministers as old as 80 and 90 in the cabinet. What exactly are they going to do there? They have been there since the revolutionary times in 1986. There is nothing these ministers are going to do. So he has, of course, appointed 3 ministers from the opposition, one from the Democratic Party, another from the Uganda People's Congress, and another from Uganda Federal Alliance. So at least that is a small twist, I could say a small surprise to the people of Uganda, the president appointing members of the opposition into ministerial positions. But I can assure you that this current cabinet is taking Ugandans nowhere. But also, one thing is 35 ministers were dropped off this cabinet, and some of those had been in cabinet since 1986. And that's a very, very long time. But they were dropped simply because they lost an election. Now, this lets you know that being in cabinet, you are useful. If you are not useful, that means you've lost an election. It means you're not going to bring any more support to the NRM party, so the president will have to drop you You see that?
So
many of these
talking about
ministers were dropped
elections,
because all of
Josh.
them lost an election.
Right. Talking about elections, we haven't heard much about the president's most fearless, so to speak, as they would call him, opposition, Kizza Besigye. What's happening to him?
Yes. Well, Kizza Besigye is in jail. He's on remand at this point in time. Treason is a capital offense that is only triable by the High Court, and at this position, his time is on remand, and bail may not be granted because it's still a capital offense. But now, the judge at the Grade 1 Magistrate Court in Nakawa, where his case was being heard, did file an application to the High Court and the judiciary that Besigye's case be heard from Luzera prison, where he is being held because he is a security risk. But members of the public in this country are saying if terror suspects, 13 of them, Al-Shabaab terror suspects, can be brought to town and tried at the High Court in the middle of Kampala. How about Besigye? Just one man who has completely caused no fault. He has not done anything. He has not killed anyone. He has not held any gun. But, you know, the judiciary is proposing that his case be heard from Luzera prison where he is because he's a security threat. Here, I think government is just trying to avoid the possibility of his supporters swarming court and overwhelming it like the last time when he appeared in court. Members of the opposition came, of course, to offer him support. And when the judiciary or the judge, the magistrate in this case, said that it was not possible to hear Besigye's case or hear his plea, people started praying and chanting and shouting all sorts of things within the court premises, and some of them were actually charged with the contempt of court. So we are still waiting for the judiciary to come up and pronounce itself clearly whether Dr. Besigye's case will be heard from the prison where he is, because they are combing the constitution to ensure that they are not breaking any law to just say they can gazette the prison where Dr. Besigye is to be a court where he is. So we are waiting for that.
Josh, thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa, a renowned journalist from Uganda, giving us the latest. That's Network Africa. Thanks a lot for watching. I am Adeshewa Josh. I'll see you again.